All right, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning for the Travel and Expense Module Employee Reimbursement Non-Travel Proxy Training. I know that's a mouthful. My name is Kathy Blackburn. Joining me also is Joanne Callahan and Alex Norwood, and we're going to walk you through this process this morning. So today's agenda is the benefits of using this module for employee reimbursement, updating banking information. We're going to review expense types for employee reimbursement non-travel. We're going to look at a new matrix that's specific to that. We're going to talk about the different expense roles and then the communication and training plan that we have. So the benefit of using this module is it'll allow you to reduce the amount of time and effort it requires you to submit, approve, process, and pay an employee's expense reports. The employee will no longer need to be set up as a supplier in PeopleSoft. And all employees that currently have a proxy role, which is this group that we're talking to this morning, will have access to create employee reimbursements non-travel transactions. All payments will be made via direct deposit through that system. So the first step in the expense module is to make sure that you enter your banking information, or the employee enters their banking information. This validates them and allows transactions to be completed on their behalf. You want to make sure that your banking information is correct and updated when necessary, because all payments will be made via direct deposit. What I'd like to do now, this is very similar to what you saw in travel, is I'm going to go out and go in the system and show you where they update that banking information. Environment this morning, some of the information may be just a little bit different for you, but everything goes through the same navigation. The navigation to do your banking information is main menu, employee self-service, travel and expense, and then review edit profile. This is that same navigation that you were given when you were doing travel. That'll bring you to the that'll bring that employee to their page, and as you can see, we're looking at myself. And then you're going to go over to the USC Bank Accounts tab, and you're going to put in your banking information, or that employee is going to put in their banking information. They're going to need 4 items. They're going to need the name of their bank, which would go here, their routing number, which is always 9 digits, and then their account number. And I promise you guys, this is not my personal account. This is a generic one. And as you can see, their account number is masked in this screen. So if they had to go in and make an edit on that, they would click that Show Edit Bank Account Number box, and when they did, that would open up that bank account number so they can make an edit if they needed to. And then they're going to select the type of account it is. They get 2 options, only checking and savings. So once they've entered those 4 items, if they hit save at the bottom, it will then validate them as a traveler. I'll show you where that is in just a minute. But the other thing that they could do on this page is update their email account so that when they have a transaction that's completed on their behalf, they will get the email notification that they have something that they have to go out and approve. And if you can see at the top right here, you see my email account. If that was not correct, they would need to go to update email. That'll take them to the self-service user profile page. And then if they scroll down under email, they would need to change that right there. And they want to make sure always that in their workflow attributes section, that both their email user and their work list user are both checked. And then they would then get the notification through their email whenever an expense transaction is completed on the employee's behalf. So once you've completed all that, you would just hit OK. It would bring you back to this page. You would hit your Save button again, and then go back up to organizational data. And on this page, it'll tell you now that the employee is valid for expenses. And that means that they are ready to go to either input an expense reimbursement for themselves, or the proxy could do it on their behalf. So I'm going to, if we don't have any questions about that, I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint presentation. Are we good? Okay. Okay, I'll wait before I do that.
Okay, Dot, we'll wait.
Do we have somebody typing, Joanne?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, Dot is typing the question.
Okay, we'll give her just a minute.
Do they have to enter their email stuff to do this, or if they already have their banking in for travel, will it be okay?
So this is the same screen that you use for travel. So if they already have their banking information for travel, then they will be valid for employee reimbursement. That is one in the same. We're using the same module for both. Okay, so I'm going to move back over to the PowerPoint presentation. And let's talk about different expense types. So the ones that will be available and will be in a drop-down screen are the ones listed. Things like food or licenses and fees, different types of supplies, postage, subscriptions, things like that. Those will be the ones that will be available for you to select when you go out and create an employee reimbursement. We do have a new matrix specific for employee reimbursement non-travel. It's listing those items that were in that previous screen. It's showing you a description of what they are, the attachments that are required, and then the account code that will be used for those. This matrix will be available on the controller's website.
We can show you where to find that at the end of the session as well.
We can.
So we have some questions coming in.
Okay. Okay, we'll keep moving. So the different expense roles, of course, are employee, proxy, and approver, and we're going to talk about each one of those and what their responsibilities are. So the employee is the individual that's going to receive the reimbursement. They're responsible for making sure that their banking information is in PeopleSoft because that validates them and allows a proxy to create an expense transaction on their behalf. And when an expense transaction is created by a proxy, the employee is responsible for approving that transaction before it will go through the rest of the workflow. An employee can create an expense transaction independent of a proxy. It's important to note that this implementation is for employee reimbursement non-travel only. Student reimbursements will continue to be handled through payment request. Proxies are anyone who can create an expense transaction on behalf of the employee. And their responsibility is to create that transaction. And all travel proxies will also have access to create employee reimbursement non-travel transactions. Approvers are anyone who can approve an expense transaction. So they're the ones that are in your workflow. It's important to note level 1 and level 2 approvers in travel and expense are the same as they are in payment request workflow, with the exception of having the ability to ad hoc. This function is not available in the travel and expense module. You can add an additional approver. However, they will also be included in the workflow for payment request.
Okay. So Dot's saying, what did you say will still go through payment request?
Students. Yes. Student reimbursement.
Thank you, Stephen.
Employee reimbursement now should go through the expense module. So an expense report in PeopleSoft makes it easy for you to take those receipts and actually create a document for expense reimbursement. We'd like to go out and walk you through what that'll look like. So let me go back to the environment. And let's walk you through an example. So I'm going to go to main menu, employee self-service, travel and expense, expense reports, and create and modify. Now, if you'll notice, it already populates a USC ID. That is actually my USC ID. So I'm going to act on the behalf of a proxy, and I'm going to actually do an expense report for Joanne. So I'm not going to need that USC ID number. I'm going to need to use my little lookup button. I'm going to click on that. It's going to bring up a screen. I'm going to go in and type in her last name and then hit my search button. And I'm going to find Joanne down here. I'm going to click on it and it changed to her USC ID number. And then I'm going to hit the add button. First thing I'm going to do when I get in here is I'm going to make sure that I'm actually doing my expense report for the person that I think I am. So I'm going to look to the far left of my screen, and you're going to see Joanne's name right up here at the very top. Second thing I'm going to do is change my business purpose. The system defaults to travel, so it's showing you employee travel. So I'm going to use my little drop down, and you see I have 4 choices now. So I'm going to select employee reimbursement non-travel. This will be available in production on October 1st, so you will not see it today. So if you've noticed, I've selected employee reimbursement non-travel, and several things for the screen changed because we're not traveling, so we don't need dates of travel or location or anything like that. So I'm going to go in and put in my report description, and in this particular scenario, we're going to be doing supplies for the chem lab. So I'm going to type in supplies. For chemistry, excuse me. And then I'm going to do my attachments at the header level. So all my receipts I have scanned into one document, and I'm going to attach that to my header level here where it says attachments. I'm going to click on my attachments. I'm going to hit add attachment and then hit my browse button. It's going to take me to where I've scanned in all my receipts. I'm going to click on that. Click upload. And you're going to see my attachment is now there. Going to click OK. When I go back to the header screen, you're going to notice that attachments now have a 1, so it's showing me that I have attached something. Now, if I need to add a note or something for my approvers, maybe an explanation of why I'm asking for reimbursement, I can do that here in the notes section. So you can add whatever you need. So you can add as needed here, whatever you want your approvers to see, or whatever explanation you need to add there, and click your add notes. And then I'm going to click OK. So now I'm going to move down a little bit. Looks very similar to what you've already seen before. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in my date, and that's going to be the date that is on my receipt. So the receipt that I've attached actually has a July 15th date. So I'm going to go in and put July 15th. And then I'm going to drop down and pick my expense type. And in this case, the first receipt that we have is for cleaning supplies. So that's going to be a miscellaneous supply. I'm going to put in my description for my line, and this is going to be cleaning supplies for Chem Lab. And I'm going to tab over to my amount. And on this, I'm going to put the actual amount on the receipt. There's no reason for me to split it up. I'm going to put that total amount on my receipt, and in this case it's $9.04. I'm going to tab off of that, and then before I go on and actually add anything else to this, I'm going to put my accounting chart field in there, and I'm going to do it at the header level, because if my chart field information, if I'm using the same chart field for my whole expense report, I can put it in one time and it'll populate all the way down the expense report. So I'm going to move back up to the top under the actions menu. I'm going to use the little drop down bar and pick default accounting for a report and click my go button. When I do that, I'm going to put in my chart field information. Let me do that. put in my operating unit. And if you notice it has a department that's in there, you're going to always need to change that. So I'm going to tab over twice and change that department. And then tab again to my fund. And then my class. And if you've noticed, I did not put an account code in there because the system defaults to an account code based on the category that you selected. So I'm going to click OK. And when I do, it's going to bring me back to my first page, that detail page. And if I scroll down, you're going to now see that full chart field information populated there. And the account code was automatically populated for you based on the fact that you selected miscellaneous supplies. And it's got my full dollar amount there. So I also have another receipt that I attached because I have a few office supplies that I purchased. So I'm going to go back up to my first line and click the little plus sign that's all the way over to the right. It will insert a line for me. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to scroll down, move back over. I'm going to go through that same process we just did. So in this particular one, my receipt was dated July 30th. So I'm going to put that new date in there. This is office supplies. So I'm going to go down and pick supplies down here. And this is office supplies for the chem lab. And I'm going to move across and put in my full dollar amount that is on my receipt, which is $36.28. And I'm going to tab off of that. And if you notice, because I've used my default accounting, when I scroll down to my chart field information, it's already populated. And the account code has been populated because I picked office supplies this time. So there's no reason for me to change that. So now I've put in both of my receipts. I've put in my report description all the way at the top. I've added my attachment. I've added my notes. I'm now ready to save my document. So I'm going to go up to the top right and hit my save for later. My save for later is going to give me a report ID number. It's always 10 digits, and because it's an expense report, it starts with a 3, and it's giving you a status of pending. Pending tells you that you have saved it, you have not submitted it, so it has not gone anywhere. But if you had to walk away from this and come back to it tomorrow, you could always go back into it and find it and then modify it. So for us, we're ready to go. Everything looks good. So I'm going to scroll over just a little bit and do my summary and submit.
So the save for later also will identify any errors that need to be corrected as well.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So when I hit my save for later and my pending status, normally I would love to always scroll down to the bottom of the sheet. And if I had any errors, it would give me a red flag over here to the left. And if I forgot a description, this description box would now be red. If for some reason I put in the wrong chart field information, none of these blocks over here would be highlighted red. What would be red would be the GL unit. That USCO1 would be red. That is always correct. It's telling you that you have a chart field error somewhere in that chart field string. Maybe your department or your fund is wrong. It's telling you you need to make that correction. So once you make the correction and go up and hit your save for later again, those boxes will disappear.
All right, we have a great question from Catherine. If we have several receipts dated the same day, can we add them together on one line, or each receipt should be listed separately?
So that is a good question. From our perspective, it's easier for us to approve when you organize them separately. Also, if they're for different expense types, you're going to need a separate line anyways. But we would prefer that you create a separate line for each receipt, even if they're dated the same day.
Okay. Next question is from Barbara. Would an approver be able to change the account code if it belongs elsewhere, like we could in payment request, or will we have to kick it back to the proxy to change?
At this point, you will have to kick it back to the proxy to change.
Good question. And you're welcome, Catherine. We have several people typing questions. So.
Okay, so we'll wait a few minutes.
If you have one receipt with different item account codes, do you split that receipt?
So yes, you would have to. There's no, the way the module works, it's much easier and makes much more sense for you to create two separate lines for each of the different expense types.
What is the split receipt for? Sorry if you said I had a phone call. So the split receipt?
I don't know what that is.
Are you Dot, are you referring to what Jenny just asked? So she was just asking if you have one receipt with different items, or that would cover two different expense types, you would have to create a line for each of those and make sure that you split the amount on the receipt to go on that expense line. When would the reference search field be used in the upper left portion of the screen?
It really would not. It's a free typing field. We used it originally when we were rolling out travel to put the old TA numbers. So there's nothing attached to that. So even if you click on that lookup button, it does not take you anywhere. You can put something in there. It doesn't stop you from doing that, but we don't train to put anything in there.
So Dot is actually, thank you, Gina and Dot, she's actually asking about the split receipt link that's down. Right here, receipt split. We actually don't use that function in this module. It's there, but it's not something that we're using. Regarding notes, how do approvers know there is one there? There is no one as there is for attachments to indicate a note exists. If Kathy could scroll up, and actually, if you notice that the comment box now, before we added the notes, it was blank. Now it has some squiggle lines, which actually indicates that there are some notes in there. That's similar to what they would see on a requisition or a travel transaction as well. And then when they go to the approver page, at the very top of that approver page, they will notice there'll be attachments, and they'll see a notes link, and the squiggle lines would be there, and so something there that they should look at. You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move forward. We're going to go over to our summary and submit. And on this page, it's going to give you basically a summary of everything you've done. So it gives you that report description, your attachment, your notes, and you can see the little squiggly lines there. It's telling you that you have two expense lines and their total is $45.32. So at this point, you're going to check your box that these expenses were incurred for official business for the university, and then you're going to submit your expense report. And this is your confirmation page. It's letting you know, it's basically a second check to make sure everything's like you want it to be. You're going to click your OK. So when you've done that, you're going to notice that report ID number at the top left, at the top right, has changed statuses from pending to submission in process. I'm going to go down and hit my refresh button so it will say submitted for approval.
Kind of gives it that extra push.
Yep, so that is now telling me that it's submitted for approval. What that means is that it has gone into the workflow. So if I click approval history down at the bottom, it's now waiting for Joanne to go out and approve that expense report. Then it's going to go to approval levels 1 and 2, and then ultimately to the accounts payable department for approval.
So Dot is asking, is that, I believe she's referencing the refresh button to change the approval status. Is that new?
No, that's not new. That's always been there. Normally, when you're doing proxy training, we ask you to refresh that, and we show that here. But when you're in production, it will refresh on its own after time. We're just doing it right now, hitting that button so that you will see it pretty much instantaneously.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? All right, so I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. All right. So communication wise, go live is October 1st. We did send out several email communications. The first one went to all business managers announcing that we were expanding the travel and expense module to include employee reimbursement, non-travel. We have already had a pre-go live webinar for business managers. They've gone through this same PowerPoint presentation. We sent out an email blast to all proxies so that they would know that they now have the ability to create employee reimbursement non-travel in the expense module. And we gave them we gave you guys 3 different training dates to come in and kind of watch what we do. Approvers also received an email. This is letting them know that starting October 1st, in their workflow, they will begin to receive employee reimbursement non-travel expense reports to approve. They would approve it exactly like they do travel now. And then we ask all of our business managers that if you have new proxies that currently do not have, or new individuals that you want to be proxies to be able to do this, they will need to attend an in-class training. We will be sending out an email to them, letting them know that they'll need to do this and that when our next proxy in-class training is. And then we will send out a reminder to all of those folks as we get closer to October 1st, reminding them that go live or when go live is.
So Angie is asking, with items related to food, the purchasing team will also approve, correct?
Yes, it will ad hoc over to purchasing for food. It won't ad hoc because it doesn't do that. It's actually in the workflow. Mm-hmm. So when you select food, in addition to what you saw earlier, where you saw the employee levels 1 and 2, then there would be an additional level that said other approvers, and that would go to purchasing for food. And then it would go to the accounts payable department.
Absolutely. And Amy, I think we're getting ready to answer your questions. So,
okay. So the webinars that we have coming up, 4 proxies are today, and then 1 August 28th, and then September 11th. The next new proxy in-class training is September 18th. If you need to know when other proxy or in-class trainings are, you can always go to the PeopleSoft Finance website. That website looks like this. You can go there and scroll down and find whichever proxy class that is convenient for you to attend.
So it's important to note that whoever will be identified in your area to create employee reimbursement non-travel in the travel and expense module, they'll also then have the ability to create travel transactions as well.
Yes, you have both.
Yes.
Okay.
How can we find out who is a proxy in our department?
Well, so all proxies received email communications for this. So if they did not receive one, then they don't have that role. It's a role-based thing. So we could probably, if you'll send us what department you are, I can probably reach out to PeopleSoft Security and they can help us determine that. Because proxy roles are given after each individual class.
I think we can.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll answer the questions as they come in.
Okay.
You're welcome, Michelle.
Okay, so some important deadlines to remember. The supplier team will no longer set up employee suppliers after September 23rd. That's giving us about a week to get everything that's in the pipeline through the system. So if you create employee reimbursement in payment request for September 23rd, it will not be processed.
So Amy, this answers your question. You have up to September 23rd to
put it through payment request.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that week of September 23rd, we're asking that you hold any employee reimbursements you have until October 1st. On October 1st, the supplier team will inactivate all employee suppliers. So they will not be able to go through payment request any longer. They will all need to go through the expense module. and you will need to do an employee reimbursement non-travel in the expense module.
And Joanne, that is correct, with the exception of students. So students, you will still continue to give those, do those reimbursements
Yes.
and payment requests.
Yes.
So our question is from Nikki, it says, did you only send the info to business managers? Nikki, we actually sent, the original communication for business managers was to attend a pre-go live webinar, and then all proxies received emails. And how we sent that communication out, we actually queried finance PeopleSoft, and it gave back a list of names and emails to everyone who actually has that role in the system, and we emailed each of those individuals. And we did make sure that the emails were correct and that they actually went to the right people.
Right.
If they came back, then we made sure to check that and send it again. So if you have some other questions about, most of us at the School of Medicine do not receive these emails, if you would please check our emails, that would be fabulous.
It's difficult. There was
Yeah.
over right at 700 people for the proxy roles, and there was a little over 700 for approvers, and right under 300 for business managers.
So Nikki, if you have a list of people who you think should have received it but
If you'll
didn't,
send us that
you can
list,
send
we'd
us that list.
appreciate
That'd
it.
be very helpful.
Yep.
All right. We have several people typing, but I think we can probably.
Okay. So as we start moving through this process, if you have any questions, we have a new email set up that would be specific for this. So if you'll email that email box that you see on your screen, we'd appreciate that. We'll try to respond as quickly as possible. When we finally go live on October 1st, I will be manning that email box. I'll answer people all day long. If you remember travel, I mean, I was manning that box day and night because we had lots of questions. This is very similar. So you guys are already up and running pretty much with travel. I think it's going to be pretty easy for you to make that transition for this.
Mhm.
It really is just picking a different business purpose.
That's it. Once you pick the business purpose,
Yep.
then you're good to go. Dot saying, during the week of September 23rd, will the existing payment request reimbursements be processed or canceled? They will be processed.
They will be
Dot.
processed.
Absolutely.
That's the point, is we want to have that week to make sure that anything that's in our pipeline goes all the way through and gets paid so that it's clean when we get to October 1st. Okay. All right, guys, do we have any additional questions?
We have some people typing. You're welcome, Nikki.
Okay, great. Looks like we might have a few people
Or
typing.
this PowerPoint will be posted. Oh yeah, let's take you out there. So
Okay,
let me do
so
that.
let me go out and
Yeah.
go here, open up a new window.
SC.
I'm just going to go into sc.edu. Hopefully. Controller's office.
Yeah.
Going to type in controller's office. When you get here, you click on the controller's office. And then we have, we have all kinds of information there. But if you go to general accounting, we will before October 1st, we will have a section that will have expense reimbursement on there, and expense reimbursement non-travel on there. It's not there yet, but we will also have any webinars and training we will have on this page. So we've already had expense reimbursement non-travel for the business managers, the pre-go live that we had. That webinar recording's already out there and the presentation is out there. So you can always go to that and listen to whatever we said before. And you can pull up this PowerPoint presentation that we've been walking through.
Absolutely. And we'll change the titles there a little bit so that you guys can identify which one you should be looking at. And then
Right.
also the finance, PeopleSoft Finance website, the resource page that you guys are familiar with.
Let me go there.
Sure. We'll post it out there as well. Just want to give you all a heads up. The PeopleSoft Finance website is going to be transitioning soon. So it's going to get a newer look and a newer URL actually, but hopefully there you guys will be redirected there if you go to our the old website for any reason.
So here's the website. You can go to resources or training. So we talked about proxy training.
And yes, Geneva, the matrix will be located in the same page on the accounts payable area.
Yes, thank you. So let's go look at training. So if you go to training, you can go here and then go to PeopleSoft finance training. And this will give you any type of in-class training that we have for proxy training. So for example, there's one in November. There's usually one every single month. There's one in October, and then our next one is September 18th. You would click on that link and then sign up from there. Okay.
So Dot has named you Queen of the PeopleSoft world.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. Any additional questions? Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of your day.